All right, here we go. Are shows like Intervention and Dr. Phil actually helpful for the addict or alcoholic? Well, today that's what we're going to talk about. These shows have gained huge popularity in the last 10 years or so, and it seems like they're doing a good job. It seems like people are going to rehab and people are getting intervention, and information about addiction is being spread throughout the world at no cost except for the advertisers. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our take on how this stuff works, our take on whether these shows are good or bad, what happened to Terry and I before we got sober when we watched these shows. This is very important stuff because I think that the issue here is very big. I think we're talking about something that goes unnoticed by most people. So, if you've ever watched those shows, let us know in the comments, and also let us know what your thoughts are on those shows. So, Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right, and I don't watch those intervention shows anymore. I
Okay.
did.
You- All right, tell us about that. What was it like when you were watching Dr. Phil or Intervention or whatever it was about addiction? Because I know when I was drinking, I kind of consumed those like crazy. And I went through and I was like, hey, I'm doing something for my addiction by watching these shows.
Well, I didn't really watch intervention. I think I tried a couple of times, and I really couldn't stand it. Although Dr. Phil, I watched that a lot. That was middle of the day. I was well into my drinking usually by that point, and I didn't have any energy to do anything else. So I'd watch TV, and the only thing that was on that I could relate to was that. And you know, did it get me sober? No. It gave me information, I guess. So maybe there is a good side to it, but it certainly didn't get me sober because I wasn't ready to get sober. It was all about when for me to get sober, I had to be ready. I had to completely decide to change my life, or things happened that made me decide to change the way I was going on, and that's really what it took. But the Dr. Phil, um, you know, the I would watch it, and now grant you, I was drinking a lot. You know, I was drinking, the one of those 1.5 gallon vodkas that would last me a day and a half, 2 days. So that's quite a bit of drinking. And the people on that show were like drinking more. So I was like, I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad at all. I'm fine. So I did use it in a way to justify my drinking. So that was kind of bad. How about you? I mean, were you drinking at that point, or was that kind of your take on it, or what?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go into some stats and then I want to bring that up. So, from what I could find, it looks like over the course of the show, they've had about 243 interventions on the intervention show. About 238 of those, so only five rejected treatment. The rest did accept it, and it looks like about 156 have remained sober. So it's about a little over half rate, which is pretty decent, and it's probably has to do with like the stigma of yeah, you were on a show and you're gonna look really bad if you go relapse now. But also might be the treatment. Maybe they have some good centers lined up. But I think the same thing happened for me that happened with you. I would drink, and this was probably 4 years, maybe a little bit longer before I actually got sober. And I was drinking pretty heavy, not ridiculous. I wasn't getting drunk every night, but I was drinking enough to get drunk every night. I just had built up a tolerance. And I would watch these shows and I'd be like, well, I'm not over there begging grandma for money, so I'm okay. I'm not a complete drunk like this person, or I'm not losing my house, or these things aren't happening to me, or I'm not like doing what this guy's doing. And I found that yes, it did become a way to justify my drinking, and it became a way to be okay with where I was, even though where I was not okay. And I think that a lot of times what the show focused on was the moral deviancy of the characters. Right? So they would go and they'd be like, "Oh, look at Jack. Jack's over here in the gutter and he pours booze on his head and then drinks it off his head or whatever." Right? They would sensationalize it to get views and to get people to watch, but at the end of the day, it was only really doing harm for the people that weren't as bad as Jack. And I think also what they didn't focus on instead of focusing on the moral depravity of these people, which, I mean, you take anyone, you take the Pope and you give him alcohol and he's morally depraved. You take, whoever it is, you give Jesus enough alcohol and he'll be morally depraved. That's just the way it works. Luckily, I don't think he drank any. But, the idea there is, oh, hey, this is a problem because of these people. And I think that Terry and I had the same view where it was like, well, we're not as bad as those people, even though we might drink as much or more. We're not as bad because I sit here on leather couches and a flat screen TV that I watch. And I'm doing good by watching Dr. Phil. I remember one time my dad years ago, we were having issues with my brother, one of them. And my dad calls me up and he says, hey, he's doing good. He's watching Dr. Phil. And I'm like, how do those two things correlate? Like, Dr. Phil isn't therapy, it's entertainment. Let's call a spade a spade. It's not education, it's entertainment. If the guy couldn't get views other than wear a clown hat and slap people, okay, slap people might be a little too far, but wear a clown hat and ride a unicycle, that's what he'd do because it's entertainment. It's showbiz, it's not therapy biz. And I have a hard time with these things because we're now making a spectacle of alcoholics and drunks. Now, the other side of the coin wasn't good either, where we hid them over on a shelf and didn't talk about them. I think there needs to be dialogue about what's going on. And I think that's what my vision was and is for this channel, is to bring awareness that, hey, old Jack, who's on, the intervention show, he's not some morally depraved being. He's an alcoholic who's chemically dependent. And when we understand chemical dependency, then we start to understand the addict a little bit more. And this goes for people who are looking to get their loved ones sober as well. I think it's very important. What do you think about all this, Terry?
I'd have to agree with what you're saying, definitely. But it is entertainment. They do talk about legitimate things and legitimate ways to get sober, and they do talk about the fact that we are morally depraved when we're drinking and stuff like that. That's not necessarily the case, and that's not always the case. But like I tended to do things that were wrong to hide my drinking, things like that. So yeah, they do sensationalize it quite a bit, and I tell you, when I was flipping through the channels, I'd just skip over like the Dr. Phil if it was about something else. But if it was about addiction or something like that, I'd watch it and I'd be kind of, wow, that's really cool. I'm going to keep watching if this person was super, super addicted and, they were showing up on the show drunk and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I'd watch that. And I don't know, maybe it was because I could relate to it, or maybe I was looking for a justification to continue on with what I was doing. I'm not really sure which the case might have been, but I don't know. I think for me personally, in my journey towards sobriety, I had to do everything I possibly could to get sober. And did those shows help me at all? Maybe they opened my eyes a little bit. So maybe they were part of my journey. I don't know. But they definitely did not get me sober. Absolutely not. And if you're relying on something like that, or something like just going to meetings, or if you're just relying on one thing, it's going to be difficult. You really have to go all in with getting sober and staying sober. It's not something that has to completely dominate your day, but it's something that you have to be aware of consistently, and consistently do something towards your sobriety. If it is going to a meeting that day, even though I just said just going to meetings may not be enough, but if it is going to a meeting that day and then just trying to act like a good person throughout the day, maybe that's what you're doing today towards sobriety. But as far as getting sober, the most important thing that you have to do, and we say it every time, is going to a doctor and listening to the doctor. The doctor's going to steer you in the right direction, and they're going to be able to give you some avenues to take. And for me, I had to take all of those avenues that the doctor told me to take. I went to the doctor years before I finally did get sober, and they told me, go to AA meetings, and that's what I did. And all I did was just go to the meetings, arm crossed, sit there, not say anything, leave right when it's over, not get engaged, not try to open up to anybody. I didn't go to any hospital sobriety groups, didn't do anything else. And I did not stay sober. For me, I had to do a lot of other things to get sober. And then to stay sober, I had to kind of refine what I was doing. And that's what was really important for me. And that's what continues to be important is I have to continue to do other stuff. And now it's a matter of living that life that I don't have to run from and staying consistent with staying sober and doing things on the daily basis. Helping other people is a big part of it, because when I was drinking, I didn't want to help anybody, and I didn't help anybody. It was all about me. It was all about me and getting my next drink. How do I look? Am I putting on the right face when I go out in public? I don't want anybody to know that I'm a drunk, things like that. And that's what it was all about for me. And nowadays, it's not so much that. Of course, I'm concerned with what other people think of me. I think that's just a natural thing. I try not to be, but it still creeps up. But still, I don't worry about it as much. And I just try to move forward in a better direction. And that's what tends to help me, at least, stay sober till today. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I was doing some research while we were listening to this, or while listening to you. And so, Intervention Show had 43 interventions, 238 accepted treatment. So it looks like they do pay for the treatment, which is kind of cool. But I think the government needs to step in, or someone needs to step in, or there needs to be some kind of foundation or new kind of education around addiction. Like, I don't know about you, Terry, but I wish, like, when they were teaching us about alcohol in school, they did a lot better job, because it was like, hey, just don't get drunk. They never told us why people got drunk. They never told us what the benefits were or why people do it. It was just like, oh, you're not supposed to do this, therefore you do, and you shouldn't. And they never really talked about chemical dependency and what happens. And I think it's important to realize that, all these things that people do when they're drinking, they come from a chemically altered mind. Right now, you might say, oh, well, that guy was a bad guy to begin with. Okay, maybe so. But chemicals do help aid the process of people acting and behaving in irrational ways. And I think a lot of it does need to be put on the chemical. Now, does there need to be a responsibility for the person drinking? Absolutely, 100%. Right? You chose to drink. That's what you get. But I think it needs to be understood that this is what happens. This is how chemical dependency works. And that's one of the things that I see lacking in these types of shows is, it was like, oh, here's this spectacle. We're all not like him, but we're helping him out so we feel better about our life. And, is that helpful? Is that good? I don't know. Grim Reaper said when he was watching these, he realized how much he was drinking when he can identify with the drunk people on the show. Okay, that might be helpful. It might show you, hey, yeah, you're pretty much like that or worse. For me, unfortunately, it took a lot more to make me realize it, because I was like, hey, good me. I can handle it better than this guy on TV. So, we got to look at that. And also, you got to realize that reality TV isn't really reality. We act different and behave different when a camera's around. I know, because I've seen this stuff happen. I've seen lots of TV shows and things like that behind the scenes where they go out there and it's not really that way. There were reports of some shows where they would provide free alcohol so that the people would get more drunk and act more crazy so they could get more ratings. And I'm like, okay, is that good? Like, is it, let's let this guy take one for the team and make him the spectacle? I don't know. I don't think that's a good thing. What do you think about that, Terry?
Well, I was reading actually Timberwolf's question. Sorry about that.
Yep.
No. Well, let me address Timberwolf's question. I have seen medical doctors on YouTube recommending pills for alcoholism. What do you think about that? Now, if you're just watching YouTube and searching and just watching videos and they're recommending something, I don't know about that. I take any YouTube advice with a grain of salt at most, you know. So that's the first thing. But if you're actually like doing a medical consult with somebody, you know, I don't know. Still, the thing that I had just said was that you need to do more than just one thing. You need to do everything you possibly can for sobriety. I think Dave had. I mean, I know we're kind of going off subject here, but Dave had mentioned that he took that naltrexone, and it's not a permanent thing, but it helped. It helped him remain sober. So it may help. That may be something, but it's something, once again, you have to go to your doctor and talk to them about it, because there's side effects for everything, you know. And that's, you know, many people use different things to get sober and to stay sober, but the ones that are successful, I'm sure, use a lot more than just one thing. So yeah, but as far as the shows go, yeah, I think they can be helpful. I think Grim Reaper had a really good point about realizing how much, because that's the way I was. I did realize that by drinking, I kind of drink about that much, and this person's got big problems. But then I'd start to look at what their problems are, and then I'd start to realize, think, you know, their problems are much worse than mine. I'm still okay. I still have a house. I still have some money. You know, things like that. I'd use it as a justification to keep going, or just the fact that I wanted to drink and feel good. And so it really didn't matter what anybody was going to tell me at that point. And that's the one thing, is watching these shows, knowing I have a problem, but at the same time, I did not want to stop drinking. I enjoyed drinking, and that's what the difficult part was. I couldn't quit until I realized that enjoyment was killing me, and the killing me part, because for some people, that fact is not enough to get them to stop drinking, but for me, that fact was more important than me continuing to drink. So I was able to get sober. So, yeah, that's kind of the way I see the shows. It's I don't know, they can be helpful, but at the same time, you got to watch it. Same, just like the YouTube videos, just like taking just naltrexone, or just going to AA, or just going to your church group or whatever, because I know a lot of churches will do recovery as well. But just doing those things, you really have to change the way you think. This is what our program talks about, is really trying to change your mindset into a sober mindset. And it's not just a one thing, this is going to get me sober. It's, I'm going to change the way I think, the way I look at things. I'm going to change my perspective on things. And that's going to help me stay sober. And that's what we try to do here.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's, you know, there's a lot of things that can help us get sober, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to not drinking. Like, I don't care. You're not going to take a pill that's going to allow you to drink as much as you want. Drinking as much as you want is not something that works in our life. And I think what I would do is I would focus on why it is you want something like that anyway. Like, what is it that's going to do for me? You know, and I have my own issues with certain types of methods and things like that, where we're like, okay, do you want to deal with the issue, or do you want to just mask it? Right? It's like taking pain pills for something you know you need to go get fixed. Right? I don't want to do that. I want to go get it fixed. And getting it fixed is starting the recovery process, first admitting that you have this issue. Right? So we go through and we're like, okay, well, I got pain in the back of my head or whatever, and I'm going to take these painkillers for this. Okay, fine, good, but we need to figure out what's causing that. And what's causing alcoholism is the drinking of alcohol and the desire to drink alcohol. And if I can deal with that, and I can handle that, obviously go to the doctor and detox and everything like that, then I think I can live a much better sober life. Because if I'm just taking, the now I can't drink pill or whatever it is that really working? I know lots of people who have tried that and it didn't work out so good. Now, I know some people who tried it and it did work. For me, I'm glad I went the route that I went because it forced me to deal with things that I had to deal with, and it forced me to create a life that I didn't need to run from because there were flaws in my life. There were things that I saw that other people tried to point out, or I just was unable to admit to myself. And once I admitted them, I started to learn that life could be lived in a good way. And it's not the way of, I don't need to drink. It's in a way of, I don't even want to drink anymore. And it's interesting because I used to think that it was going to be this difficult thing that I would need a pill for, that I'd need this. And I would watch the YouTube videos and, oh, hey, this guy says, take this, or this guy says, do this, or these herbs are from ancient India where nobody drinks, or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, is that really the solution? Or is the solution making a plan to not drink and making a life I don't need to drink away from? And setting a foundation of, hey, you know what, I'm going to be okay. And I think that is really where it's at, because my drinking was more or less because I didn't know how to deal with life. This is why they say in recovery, start living life on life's terms. I lived life on my terms. Everything happened to me. This person died, it happened to me. It didn't happen to everyone who knew them. It happened to me. All right, well, Marcus, wake up. 144,000 plus people die every day. Every single day, over 144,000 people die. All right, my loved one just happened to be one of them. Some people die at 2. Some people die at 102. Some people have car accidents. Some people get health problems. Some people die of old age. And I was watching a talk by Jim Carrey, and I like most of his talks, but there's one thing that I disagreed with. And he sat there and he told people in front of the audience, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And I was like, wait a minute. No. You're right. Life doesn't happen to me, but it also doesn't happen for me. That's even worse. Because if I look at life that happens for me, then I go into the law of attraction, secret, woo-woo, create the life you want because the universe wants you to have. No. The universe doesn't want you to have anything more than what you have. Because to say that would be to say that, well, I deserve more as a little infant than some poor starving kid in another country. And I'm not going to accept that. It's the luck of the draw. You get what you get. You are inserted into life, and now you're part of it. It's not happening to you. It's not happening for you. It's not to benefit you. There's many people who live before you and after you and whatever. And once we understand that, oh, wait, life's just happening and I get to join the dance. I don't have to drink away from that. When I think life's happening to me or for me, now I'm, oh my God, what could I have done to make this better? Oh my God, now I'm spiraling out of control on all these thoughts, and it's triggering my OCD of all this garbage that I couldn't control, which brings us back to the serenity prayer. Help me accept the things that I can't change. There's certain things in life you can't change. The quicker we learn to deal with it, the quicker we can put the bottle down, because I don't have to drink over it because I can't change it. I'm not in control of it. And I think that's important to realize, and I think that's something that these shows don't talk about. They don't talk about what the life of an addict is like mentally. Oh, sure, they'll show you pictures of the guy in the gutter or going over there to score a dime bag, but they're not going to show you what goes on in the addict's mind. They're not going to talk to you about the difference between the working of mind and the content of mind. And that's what I think is helping us get and stay sober. What do you think about that, Terry?
Yeah, I agree 100%. You mentioned the serenity prayer, and that's one of those tools that helps me a lot every day. It's just realizing that I'm just part of life, and grant me the serenity to change the things I can. So there are certain things I can change in life, and I do have control over. But most of the stuff in life I don't have control over. I don't have control over people, places, and things. That's pretty much everything, right? Almost everything, so there's a lot that I can't control, so I have to just accept. Now, that doesn't mean accept things that happen that doesn't mean I'm agreeing necessarily, but it means I just have to accept that things do happen in life. And so that helps me a lot, just being able to just adjust as I go. I've mentioned on every one of our recent shows that I've moved, and things happen during the move, and I just had to accept it. And okay, what am I going to do now to deal with that? And that's the way that I approach life right now. But another thing is just that mindset of gratitude. That's huge for me. You know, I went through this move. I was able to do this move. I'm blessed to be able to do this move, and I'm grateful that I was able to get the place I got. I'm grateful that I have the life I have. And is my life? Do I live in a mansion? No. Do I have millions of dollars in the bank? No. And are there things that I want? Do I want a house that's a mile away that's on the lake? Yeah, absolutely. But do I have it? No. But I'm grateful for what I have. I have a comfortable place. I have a comfortable life. And that's something that's pretty huge. It's, when I was drinking, all that was going down the drain. And I was not grateful. I wanted more. All I wanted was more, more, more. I spent lots of money to try and buy these materialistic things to make myself happy. And did they make me happy? Absolutely not. Because I was still in that alcoholic cycle that was just driving me further and further downhill. And it's that mindset that I had to change. That gratitude, the acceptance, and realizing that I only have so much control over things. And that's big for me on a daily basis, is just being able to go through life and, okay, this is what I need to do next, and maybe it's not going to work out the way I want it, and just being able to accept that and try to adjust and try to do better. Or if I tend to hurt somebody or say something wrong to my wife, and make her angry and make her upset. What happened the other day, and I had to step back and I had to think about it, and then I had to go up and apologize. And that's what I did, rather than what would I have done when I was drinking. I would have drank more, and I would not have been wrong. That's for sure. I would have stayed right no matter what. I wouldn't have apologized. And that would have just driven me further down that alcoholic cycle, because I would have been just trying to push these angry emotions down and this guilt that I had down. Now I can just deal with it, deal with the problems that come up the second they come up, or if I have to wait a day or whatever. But that's what I do now. And that's the type of thing that keeps me sober, is just having a clean slate every day, and that helps me a lot.
Well, I think it's interesting when you're talking about the materialistic part, where we tend to want more and more and more. And Buddha always said that the root of suffering is desire, me desiring things to be different than they are. And one of the things that helps me in sobriety, because I come from the business culture, which is hustle your ass off till you get everything that the world has to offer. And in some cases in life, it just doesn't work out that way. Not everyone can be the richest person in the world. There can only be one of them. And even if you are the richest person in the world, what do you need that for? Most of the time, it's because you desire to prove yourself. And, we look at this and we start to understand that in life, you can have whatever you want if you're willing to pay the price for it. There you go. Like Terry says, I want a house on the lake. Okay. You can get a house on the lake. It might not be in Washington or wherever you're at. It might be somewhere cheap, right? Or anyone can have a Rolls Royce. You might have to live in it, but you can have one. Are you willing to pay that price? And, Terry could come out here to Florida and live on a lake if he's willing to pay for the heat and the alligators. You can do that. And you have to look at things as practical, what I want and what I don't want. But the problem is that people get so emotional about money and things and stuff. And we don't think about these kind of things in terms of, a healthy way. We think of them in a way of, oh, this guy has that. It must be nice to be him. Okay, well, maybe not. You don't know. Like, would I trade my life for being the richest person in the world? No. I don't want a camera on me everywhere I go. I don't want everything I do scrutinized. When I get a yacht or a boat, if I ever decide I want one, I can only occupy about 6 square feet of it. So if I have a 180-foot yacht, like, what am I going to do? There's rooms I hadn't even seen in it. And I remember when I had my big house in California, it wasn't that big. It was big for California standards, which is anything over 1,500 square feet, I think. And I remember sometimes I'd be like, oh, I haven't been in this room in 6 months. It's like, okay, well, why do I even pay for it? I'm paying property tax and real estate and all this for a room I don't even go in and nobody uses. And I think it's important to realize that the things that you want and the things that you're drinking over, in the long run, do they really matter? Like, what I like right now, the thing that I'm most proud of with my business stuff is that, hey, my business allowed me to be able to fly out and see my dad in his last days. Like, does it matter what car I drove to the airport to go see my dad? No. Does it matter what hotels I could afford along the way? No, he didn't want me to sleep in hotels. He was like, you're sleeping in the RV. That's what we do on an RV trip. And I'm like, hey, time of my life. So glad I was able to do it. And realistically, a lot of people can do that. I remember when I was getting sober, I didn't think that the world could revolve without me in it for 30 days. I got there about 2 weeks. I was like, nobody really gives a shit that I'm gone. Must not be that important. And for a moment, I felt sad. Oh my gosh, the world doesn't really care that I'm sitting here in rehab. But then I got happy thinking, hey, nobody cares. I like that. So all these things that I work up in my life about, are people going to care? Are people going to do this? Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And that's a blessing.
It is. That was very freeing to me as well after going into rehab. I was very concerned about my dog, though, because I left my dog for a month. But, and he was super happy when I came back. But everybody else, the ones that were close to me, the people, family and close friends, things like that, they were happy I went to rehab. And they had my back. Of course, they didn't mow my lawn. That was a mess when I came home. But they took care of everything else in my life. So that was nice. And the rest of the people, it was nice, because when I finally did get sober, I kind of had a clean slate then. Everything, it was fairly easy for me. A lot of people, they get sober, and I'm sure some of you can relate to that you get sober and it's not easy. For me, it was pretty easy because I had a clean slate. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have a lot of things. I was kind of able to start over, which is kind of scary. But the way I had been looking at life at this point, when I finally got sober, was that this is good. Okay, where do I go from here? What do I do next? Okay, I need to put my concentration into sobriety. I'm very early in my sobriety. And by the way, Tony, congratulations on 3 months. And you're at that earlier stage of sobriety, and you probably felt similarly as far as, what do I need to do to stay sober today? I remember thinking, what am I going to do? I have all this time on my hands. And yeah, are you turning on Dr. Phil there?
I know, it's my air conditioner. I need to point it at me. I am probably his least fan. I got my own. That's another show for another day. Yeah, that's the thing you got to realize, is that show business is show business. And, like the overweight shows, the people that are having trouble with their weight. It's like Alan Watts used to say, we consume these things and we talk bad about other stuff because it makes us feel better about our own life. Oh, I'm not like that person. I eat 5 cheeseburgers. She eats 16. I do this, and this person does worse. And what if we're all just people? And what if that's their way of coping and this is our way of coping? And one of the blessings that I love that alcoholism inadvertently gave me was the ability to level the playing field. The ability to realize that I'm not special. I mean, here in America, we're taught, oh, you tied your shoes, you're so special. you're so great. And fine, people should get praise, of course. But I think the message is wrong. Instead of, hey, you learned to tie your shoes, that's great. Good job. Instead of, oh, hey, you're so smart and you're so great. Because what we're doing is we're having an identity crisis that's built around stuff that doesn't really matter. And then when we get out in the world, we're like, oh, hey, everyone said I'm special, but the world doesn't think the same thing. Mom's not out there in the world telling me how special I am every time I make a sale or go to work on time or whatever. Nobody cares. And for the person who was told they were special their entire life, this is a very disheartening thing. Because you go in the world and, oh my God, nobody cares. Nobody cares. But for the person who looks at it as a realistic, why should they care? There's 8 billion other people that should be cared about. And this is where I have trouble with, like, The Secret and manifesting what you want and manifesting your desires because the universe wants you to have it. Well, I kind of hope the universe pays attention to people that are starving and forgets about me wanting a new car for a minute. I don't know. Do I really need one? I drive 1,000 miles a year, if that. Half of them my wife drives because I don't like driving. Do I really need that? Do I really need a bigger TV for the football game? I mean, there's certain things on a football game you just don't want to see. Right? I'm like, hey, wait a minute, when they're hiking the ball, I don't think I need that on a 100-inch screen. I don't know. I mean, maybe, each his own. But we have to look at life and start to understand things and start to say, to what end? If you think you're going to be happy with stuff and you think this is going to make you happy, prove to yourself you could be happy without stuff. And you might just figure out that you don't want the stuff you thought you wanted to begin with. And that's what sobriety did. I went into rehab and I went into sobriety thinking, I'm going to get sober and I'm going to fix my business and I'm going to get rich. That's what I thought. I was going to get sober so I could do my business. And then I got sober and I spent a year not working on my business. It's the worst year we had since 2001. And I was okay. It was actually one of the most calming, relaxing, self-reflective years of my life. Because I said, you know what? It doesn't matter how big my bank account is if I'm a drunk. I'd rather be sober with a nickel than drunk with a million nickels. What's that, 20 grand? Something like that. But you got to look at that and you got to understand.
Calculator.
All right, any comments?
Bond says A&E claims 55% of all addicts featured on the show remain sober. Do you buy that rate? It's hard. There's a documentary about, it's actually about rehabs, and it also talks about SLEs, sober living environments, and percentage. And in that documentary, it talks about percentages, and so it brings up a question about that. How do they get their statistics on those shows? Could they call people? What do they do? And are the people honest when they answer? And what about the people that don't answer the phone? If I start drinking, I'm not telling anybody. So am I going to be included in that successful rate? Or what? Or the I don't know rate? I don't know. So statistics, and you hear other statistics. Actually, I think a really common statistic is people that go to AA or rehabs or whatever. There's a 5% success rate. And, the statistics are really, it's a difficult thing to really analyze because you really have to analyze it on Alcoholics Anonymous. So it's anonymous. How do they find out how many people stayed sober?
Yeah.
They can't find out. And how many of that percentage of people have tried it and then they fail, they start drinking again, tried it, they've tried it several times to get sober, and then they're finally sober. So what percentage of success is that? Because they're finally sober now. I don't know.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I do want to say the last thing I'll say about the statistics is the only statistic that matters is if I don't drink on a daily basis, I have a 100% chance of staying sober. That's the statistic that matters to me.
Absolutely. And I think also one of the things that's interesting is me and Terry went to rehab. Both of us were not covered under insurance. We paid out of our own pocket, um, which is another problem in our society. Is like you have someone who needs to get sober and you're worried about paying for it. Like, okay, I'm sorry, like Budweiser and Smirnoff. Maybe you should set some funds aside, like the tobacco industry. I don't know, maybe. But also, I was looking at the A&E stuff. They paid 7 million, uh, approximately 7 to 10 million on sending people to rehab, which in terms of a TV show, they make way more than that. But anyway, when we look at the statistics, me and Terry both went and we had to go out of pocket, and there was no follow up. If I hadn't called the rehab, nothing. You just see you later. Out the door, you're it's like Kevin O'Leary on the Shark Tank show, which again is entertainment, it's not business. But I think that these lines are crossed, and entertainment is not business, entertainment is not health, entertainment is not rehab. Right? I didn't go to rehab for entertainment. Was it entertaining? Yeah, there were some interesting characters.
Yeah.
But had I gone there for entertainment, I would have ended up with a bunch of friends, and I probably wouldn't be sober. That's what you look at. But also, statistics, they never called me. Not once. Not one time did they call to see, what's going on. Is that bad or is that good? I don't know. But it does affect statistics, that's for damn sure. And what I would look at is, what are you going to do with your sobriety? Because this is about you. And Christine says, intervention was a negative influence in my life. I learned how and why to drink, and what was alcohol, what wood alcohol was not. Yeah, that's another thing. It's giving addicts ideas they wouldn't have thought of. Right? And that I didn't even think about that. That's kind of ironic, but it is giving people ideas where it's like, hey, I can do this. And I think, now that you say it, I think I did get one idea from there, and I contemplated it. But yeah, that's another thing. It's very, very detrimental, And I personally don't think they're doing good. I would rather, have an education channel. Let's stop making a spectacle of our sick people in society. You want to make something entertaining, make a movie. Make a fictional movie. But I don't know. I don't know if that is really... And Christine says, it nearly ended her life because of the information that was given on those shows of, hey, instead of doing this, which everyone knows, why don't you do this? Yeah, that's detrimental. Very much so.
Yeah, I had a good friend that he started drinking with one of those things, and and that's, I don't know if he found out that information on those shows or what, but that's one thing I had to do when I got sober was get rid of everything in my house that had any alcohol in it, and I did that. And nowadays, I've been sober for quite a while, and my wife likes a glass of wine here and there. So, we have that, but I still don't buy anything with alcohol, like mouthwash or anything like that. I do have vanilla in the house, but so now I'm giving out bad information too. But for me, what it really was about, as I've already said, was I had to want to get sober, and I had to make those decisions to get rid of stuff. If somebody was just going to hide things from me or get all the alcohol out of the house to try to get me to quit drinking, it wouldn't have worked.
Nope.
I would have found a way to drink.
They did try to hide it from us.
Yeah.
I know in my house they did.
I have a buddy that he's struggled a lot, and he's gone in and out, and he even had, I think he had 16 years, something like that, sober. But every time he'd start drinking, the wife would take the car keys and his money, his wallet, take all that stuff, and he would injure himself a lot, and he'd be pretty badly injured, and but he'd figure out a way to get to the liquor store and get liquor every single time. It's just, that's how strong an addiction is, and that was the case with me too. Is I would have been able to I would have done that until I was completely ready to stop drinking. And even then, it was I didn't know what was going to trigger me to want to drink. That craving that overpowers everything in my life. That's the way it would be. Is that it didn't matter when I wanted to drink, I wanted to drink, and I would figure out a way to get it, no matter what. And it's sometimes it's difficult to figure out what trigger is going to get you to go in that direction. So I just have to be aware of that every day. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, it's my responsibility to stay sober.
Yeah, and
So
that's the thing is, my big issue is education. We need to educate people on what's going on. Like I wish someone would come to me when I was drinking and say, "Hey, look, this is what's going on," and that's what got through to me in rehab. They said, "This is what's going on." I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." Before it was, "Oh, you're a moral failing. You can't hold your liquor. You're a lightweight. You're a quitter. You're just a drunk." No, I'm chemically dependent, and here's how it works, and this is what it does to you. Oh, shit. Well, thank you. This information has been around since the dawn of freaking time, but for whatever reason, it's hidden. And I don't know what reason. I don't know why someone mentioned on A&E they always end the show when they go to rehab. They don't end the show saying, "Hey, here's some tips to get sober. Here's what this person did." No, it was, "Hey, here's this degenerate who can't hold his liquor. Now he's going to the sober tank, and hopefully he comes out okay." I don't know. We'll roll the dice. There's a same chance of getting a 1 through 6 as there is the other numbers. And we got to look at that and say, I think there's a problem with our society that it hides all this stuff. I think there's a problem where the stigma is bad and the spectacle is there, and we're not talking about what really works. And hopefully, hopefully one day there's more than just a couple of people talking about it. And I think hopefully one day there's more than the stigma of "you're just a drunk. This is what you need to do." Hopefully there's more education, and I think there needs to be. They should print that on the alcohol bottle too. Hey, this is how chemical dependency works, and this is a chemical. It's what it is. You might say, "Oh well, the chemical's been around since the Bible times." Okay, fine. And in the Bible times, they had the same problem. Why are we having the same problem today after 10,000 years or more of understanding this stuff? I mean, other stuff gets fixed. Like, you don't see a lot of the issues that were in Bible times still around today. Why do we see this one? Why is that still there? And information is power. Information is the key. Understanding, hey, this is what's going on. Now I need to get alcohol off the table because that is the problem. You're not the problem. I mean, there's things in life where, sure, you might be the problem. But with alcohol dependency, chemical dependency, you, as Jerry Springer would say, you are not the problem. Or you are not the father, or whatever he says. And when we start to look at that, it's like, okay, wait a minute. If I'm not the problem, then alcohol is the problem. Then you get alcohol out of the life, and the problem is gone. Seems pretty simple to me. But of course, it's easier said than done.
well, yeah, there are other little things. Well, they could be big things in life that may drive us to that point. But for me, that was it. It was getting the alcohol off the table. That was the first thing. The way I tried to approach was deal with all the other problems except the alcohol, and those problems never went away. I don't know. Could any of you relate to that? I did that for years and years and years, and eventually I took the alcohol off the table. Did I still have other problems? Yes, of course. Do I still have problems now? Yes, of course. There's issues to deal with. That's life. But now that alcohol's off the table, my problems tend to be quite a bit less. I have had big issues in sobriety. They have happened. Big scary things have happened in life, but I'm able to deal with them, and I'm able to push through them, at least so far. So, and that was because I took alcohol off the table. So for me, and for any of you that are having that trouble, quitting drinking, get that alcohol off the table. Go to a doctor. Listen to what he says. Don't try to justify your drinking for any reason, because it's not good for you. And move forward with sobriety. If you've gotten sober a bunch of times and you're still fighting and trying to get sober, it's okay. Start where you are today, right now, and try to get sober, and just move forward. What's happened in the past is the past. There's nothing you can do about it. So you can stop drinking right now and stay sober. You don't have to drink anymore. I don't have to drink anymore, and I don't know what the future is going to bring, but I hope I'm not going to drink anymore. We'll see.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Any other pressing questions before we wrap it up here?
Well, let me see. We got a bunch just right now. And Trek, good to see you. It's good to see all your regulars, Grim and Dave and Ann and Timberwolf. And for those of you that Ano, yep, and Christine, it's great to see you all here today. And any of you people that are new that are watching, it's good to have you here. And let's see, yeah.
All right.
Christine's.
I think we're good then. Yeah. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below if you think these shows are helpful, if they're not helpful. And next week we'll have another training show lined up for you. Thanks for being here. Stay sober. Go over to talksober.com, click the big yellow button if you want to support what we're doing and get all kinds of tools and PDFs and audios and videos on how to get and stay sober. That's over at talksober.com. Click the big yellow button, sign up. It's only $27 a month. It helps keep us on the air, keep us going here, and hopefully this year we're going to put out a lot more videos, time permitting. And your help helps us with that as well. So thanks for being here, guys. Check out talksober.com for lots of resources, and we'll see you next